listening to Bad Decisions with Jazz. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from around the world, you're listening to Season 2, Episode 8 on Bad Decisions with Jazz. Well, 8 weeks of wonderful greatness with my listeners. This has been one hell of a trip. And do we have weekly updates this week? Of course we do. And I'm not going to get ahead of myself this episode. I am going to do my damn best because I did a shit ton of research. And of course I'm proud of the research. You know, I never thought I'd be somebody who would research stuff. But here I am today, sitting on this chair, having a chat with you. Grab your cup of coffee, grab tea, grab your water because we got to stay hydrated in this heat. Well, for Florida people anyways. Guys, have you noticed that my mental health has been absolute shit? Have you noticed that? Because, let me talk to you about this real quick. I feel like I get my life together, right? TikTok has a theory in which if you have an iPad and you take notes on this motherfucker, you're gonna have your life together. And I have never had my life less together than I have in the last week. I swear to you, it has been a shit show, okay? And just like a mental health shit show, not like an actual shit show. Nothing's wrong. My house is clean. I've done the laundry. I have one load left. I'm speaking fast. Gonna slow it down. Hello. Hi. How are you? Welcome to my podcast. That was a good break. We're going to stick with that. We're talking about a lot today, but I want to first apologize for the fact that I have been MIA on Twitch, and I apologize for that. I get home from work, and the last thing I want to do is get on Twitch, and I love Twitch, and I love Sims, and I don't know why it's been kind of like a mental downer for me, but I have to do what's good for the mind, always. No matter what, my mental health matters, your mental health matters, and we have to make that a point. That is the point of my podcast, that I'm not the only individual going through half the stuff that I go through. I know that there are other ones, even if you guys don't come forth. What are we going to talk about today? Well, ladies and gentlemen, something significant has happened in my life. Well, I mean, a lot has happened in my life in the last year, but with this episode and today's topic, something significant has happened in my life in the last week, and that significant thing being that my childhood home was sold. Yeah, rest in peace to that house. I'm upset because I didn't get to say goodbye because, I did say goodbye when I obviously moved to Arizona, but in a way I didn't really get to say goodbye. Like, I feel like I should have had one last hurrah, the divorce, father, the drama. And I'm sad about it because there's been a lot, so we're just going to do a little flashback moment, so feel free to skip this. But if you've been to my parties, then, it's not like I was ever going to throw another party again at the house, but come on now, that already in itself sets the scene for the topic, which is great. We love it when I set the scene. It's not very often that I get to do that. There was a lot in that house. There was a lot of negativity. There was a lot of positivity, more negative than positive. But the positives I hold very dear to my heart. And now that it's sold, I feel like it's like a little bit of letting go, and then also a little bit of well, I kind of still want to hold on to that. No, but I had no control over it, so I'm not going to dwell on it. However, it's okay, it's kind of freeing that I let go of it because of all of the stuff that house has entailed, which has to do with this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about putting things in a box. What have you put in a box? Well, I asked you guys that on Instagram, and I'm not going to lie, I got feedback, but I didn't get as much as I thought I was going to get, and maybe that's because I didn't check it. It's been an hour since I checked it, so that's probably what it is. So maybe somebody did, maybe somebody didn't, but Hi, it's Tuesday and my podcast drops tomorrow and I am doing this last minute AF. Like I said, don't have my life together. And this topic is going to be of no exception. This topic is all about me not having my life together. In fact, it is all about my deep, dark secrets. Just kidding. I'm not sharing a lot of it with you, but all right. Hello. Hi. Putting it in a box. What the fuck is it? What is putting in a box? Like, theoretically speaking, when someone says, well, are you going to put that in a box? What does that even mean? And I am here to define it for you. That's what I'm here to do. Putting it in a box, it's hiding a painful, stressful, bad memory or bad experience that you had. And you put it in this part of your brain in which you will not be able to take out or ever know again. You just kind of like put it in the back of your brain and out of mind, it's out of sight. Who knows where it went? Who remembers it? Not I. So a lot of the stuff that I will be discussing today is stuff that's already come to light in my life, and they're boxes that already came to life, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit of science. So let's get into it. Your brain has a process, okay? And it's a 3-step process. It encodes, it stores, and it retrieves. And I got all my information, let's source real quick, from northwestern.edu and psychologytoday.com. Your brain has those 3 steps, right? You encode your memories a certain way, you store your memories a certain way, and you retrieve those memories a certain way. So, your brain has 2 different amino acids that work hand in hand with each other. If one is off balance, so is the other, and when one is balanced, so is the other. That's how they work. And they both work in the encoding process, the storing process, and the retrieving process. These 2 amino acids are called glutamate and GABA, G-A-B-A. And glutamate is a chemical that stores memories easy to remember. It's actually an excitement amino acid. It's a chemical that causes excitement through us. And GABA is a chemical that blocks excitement. The thing about GABA is that there's 2 receptors. And though this chemical within your brain is the chemical that helps you sleep at night, it helps your mind like calm down so that way you can rest, there are 2 different receptors for it, and they both block excitement, so there's that. And I'm not going to discuss both of them, I'm just discussing the one that pertains to this topic. And that receptor is the one that ignores excitement and acts completely independently of the other receptor and of itself. And this is the receptor of the amino acid that will take those fearful events, those fearful memories that you had, and it will essentially put it in a box and have you forget all about it. Now, again, I'm going to continue on with the science. The thing about this, the thing about the storing of your memories is that you have to be in the same consciousness to retrieve these memories as you would be when you formed the memories. That is the tricky part, is getting your mind to the same consciousness. And that's, if you're in a perfect state of mind and you're happy and you're healthy and you feel like your life is going great, power to you, but you probably will not be able to access those memories in which you were scared and you were distraught and you were sad, whatever the case might have been, whatever emotion you were feeling, whatever consciousness you were in, you probably will not be able to retrieve those memories, okay? So that's just me continuing on with the science behind these 2 amino acids and the science behind putting it in a box. Now, every single episode I talk about the pros and cons to doing something. Putting something in the box is a very big psychological thing, and it can be very effective for one's mental health. Speaking as somebody who doesn't have their life together, but at least my mental health is not absolute shit, it's just shit, but I use this method quite regularly, okay? Now, the short-term effects versus the long-term effects is that short-term speaking, this can cause your mind to have like a state of peace. And we love that. We love it when our mind is just calm, okay? But for my mind, short term, this would not work for me. I have to, once in my life, assess whatever's in that box. I don't have the luxury of just saying, well, I'm gonna put this in a box and completely forget about it. It doesn't work like that for me. Long-term effects, and this is why it doesn't work for me. Perfect intro, look at that. Long-term, it can cause lots of anxiety. It can cause a lot of PTSD. It can cause a lot of depression. Sometimes it can cause bipolar disorders. I mean, there's a lot of negativity that putting something in a box can give you. And even though it's effective and it works, it's not something for everyone. So if you're perfectly fine with letting go of things, then power to you. I give you props. That is a big deal. But for someone like me who needs to deal with my emotions constantly, this method would not work for me at all. And it works for a little bit, and by a little, sometimes it could be years before I deal with something, but for the most time, I need to assess the issues at hand right off the bat, because that's kind of a big deal. And it's good for my mental health because of my anxiety already. In my last episode, I said what goes around, and as I was scientifically speaking about your consciousness has to be the same as it was when the memory was formed. So that means if you were drunk and this memory was formed, then you need to be drunk to assess the memory again. The issue with that is that in your drunk state of mind, all you want is more alcohol, and you don't want to deal with your problems. That's the whole point of alcohol to begin with. Just kidding, don't drown your sorrows in alcohol. It doesn't work that way. But you see my point of view. And if you're high, then you need to be high to get those memories. Like the state of your mind has to be equivalent to when they were formed, and I can't stress that enough. So if you ever feel as though you want to assess what you put into that box, then therapy is your go-to. I'm not a licensed therapist. I cannot help you. I would love to help you, but this is my form of helping you. Disclaimer. What I'm about to get into may trigger something that you yourself have in a box. And if at any moment you feel like this is where the topic is heading and you don't want to listen to it anymore, then kudos to you. I support you. You can stop it, because it was definitely very difficult for me, which I think is why I procrastinated so much, to talk about half the stuff that I'm going to be discussing today. The thing about the box, okay, why put it in a box? Why a box? I mean, couldn't it be anything else, Jazz? I don't know, okay? I didn't make the saying, and I don't really know why it came to be, but I know that it is an actual method. Like something you physically do. You can go out and buy a box, and you can put notes in there. You can put all of these negative feelings, negative emotions. I mean, I would say it's the equivalent as writing something down on paper and then burning it. I would say it's the equivalent. And then you forget about those things in the box. But you can come back to the box later and deal with whatever's in there. And that's what I want to stress enough. Or you can go ahead and just throw the box away. Like, I'm not a person who can let go of things. I hold on to things. It's just who I am in nature. I just have a hard time of letting go of things. So when it comes to like letting go of something, I can't do it. But this method is highly effective, and I have used this method before, in fact, with baby and with what we went through for baby. That's definitely something I'm still going through. I mean, I'm slowly taking things out of that box that I had put into, but that's definitely a big thing. But I did get a box, like a physical box from Target, and we do put notes in there, and that is how we keep it alive. Like, that's how we keep the memories, the emotions, the happiness that we were feeling. That's how we keep it alive. So is this method effective? Yes. Do I recommend it? 10 out of 10. It's amazing, and it helps you feel like you're in a right state of mind when you do it. Now, when you put negative thoughts in there, then you write that negative thought down and you forget about it. And you forget about it until you're actually ready to deal with whatever piece of paper that you put in that box needs to be burned, basically, and completely done with and shredded. The thing about the box is that, like, for me, the reason I have so many boxes for so many different reasons, because my life is a shit show, is because boxes to me are a safety net. Now, let me explain why I'm getting into this. So, in one of the articles that I had read, Marla Paul is our individual. She stated, At least I think. Now I'm confused. But someone stated that life is better outside of the thinking box. Excuse me, you're very wrong, okay? The thing about the box is that it's my safety net. I need this net to survive because the uncertainty in this world is just crazy. There's too much of it. I can't. As someone with anxiety and suffers from it, I couldn't imagine my life without a box or multiple. Okay, my boxes are my safety net, and I say that they're like my walls because they make me so vulnerable when people get to like dip their fingers in there. And for me, yeah, okay, vulnerability is something that I fear and I don't want to be vulnerable, but that's another topic for another time. This box is my way of knowing how to process that uncertainty that comes from the outside world. And I don't think that living outside the box, as someone who lives very strongly in my mind, is what would work for me. Now, if you can live like that, if you agree that life is better outside that box, then listen. But I think most of us can agree that this box is what protects us from a lot of the negativity that we go through. Normally, it's life, and I could not imagine my life outside of this box. No can do. Not gonna happen. So what I had been reading more often than not is that putting things in a box is actually compartmentalizing. It really is. It's basically you putting each thing in a box. You're basically deciding, okay, this is a bad memory, this is a bad thought, this is a bad situation. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in the bad situation box. That's what I'm gonna do. Okay, this is a really happy memory. This is a memory that made me feel happy, amazing, and I'm gonna put it in the happy situation box. Oh, and this is a situation that made me really sad and depressed, so I'm just gonna put it in the depressed situation box. You know what I mean? That's what compartmentalization is deciding which one goes in which section. I mean, you kind of do it every single day. You put your whites in. Anyways, that's like, now I feel like I'm getting too much into it. I'm on like bad bitch vibes and I'm talking about like domestic vibes. I gotta get it together. Basically, you put your bad things in this box and you put it on the shelf. But the thing is, you put it all the way in the back of the shelf. And this is like a freaking, I don't even know, 50 feet deep kind of shelf. So you really gotta like crawl in there and figure out where the fuck it is when you wanna discover what actually happened. Like what is in here? Why haven't I found this yet? And it happens whenever you're like actually trying to go through something. You're trying to think about it. You're trying to assess it. And I don't know. I do this a lot. I really do. I put something in a box and it will go and it's like out of mind, out of sight. Like if I don't see it, then how do you want me? Lately, I have been feeling like my demons have been wanting to break free a lot more recently than usual, and let me explain why. That's a little Kevin Hart moment, not me, can't take credit for it. So the thing is, I have put a lot in my life in a box, and I always thought I would be somebody who cannot deal with it, but up until I finally got into a legitimate relationship, I realized that there are a lot of things in that box that can hinder my relationship from being as successful as I want it to be, and as I crave it to be. In fact, as I want to build an empire with hubby, and I feel like there's always something like pulling me back, and it's basically like my demons from these boxes. And oftentimes I feel like these boxes are like Pandora's boxes. Like I get through one box and then I open another one, and then it's like 20 other things I have to deal with that I didn't even realize were a thing. And this is why I highly recommend therapy, because you just don't know. You just don't know how to deal with this stuff on your own. And honestly, I think I'm going a little crazy because I just like, it's like one thing after another, and I feel like it's because we're getting closer to the wedding. But the point being is that if you feel like that, then I want you to know that you're not alone. And I am still trying to figure it out myself. And although this is my diary, it's also supposed to be a safe space for you and for your thoughts, so that way you can just think and have somebody else do the talking and the thinking for you, and you just get to listen. And that's why I love podcasts. But rambling, getting off topic. So here is something that came out of a box maybe like last year that I want to discuss today, because I remember it and I remember the struggle to get through it, the struggle that I'm still going through it. Now, something Now, hold on, let me back up. Let me set the scene real quick. Now, I talked about in my manipulation episode about this one girl and everything that happened, right? I'm not going to talk about it because I already did. That created a lot of problems. I think that friendship I kind of put into a box for a very long time, and it wasn't until years later that I finally started realizing what had happened. That's what I talked about, right? And I put a lot of shit in that friendship into a box, and now it's like coming to bite me back in the ass. It's as if I'm getting punished for putting it in a box to begin with. Like, did I put myself in these positions? Probably. But the point is, it's like, I put you in a box for a reason, so like, why are you trying to break free now? What do you want from me? Like, what is going on? My subconscious is trying to tell me something, and I just keep trying to ignore it because I'm like, well, I don't want to deal with this. And I feel like since my mental health has been shit last week, I had no choice, because what did I want to do when my mental health is shit? I want to sleep. I want to think about nothing, and I don't want anything to bother my mind, my peace, and I feel like these boxes just keep on opening it up and disturbing the peace, and it's a problem. Growing up in adolescence jazz phase, because of this girl, because of this manipulation, I felt as though people, men, boys, only wanted me for my body, okay? That was all that I had to offer. There was nothing else good about me. It's not that I was a little childish. It's not that I was fun. It's not that I was outgoing. It's just my body. So I felt like I had to put my body out there to get approval from others, because at the time I did want people to like me, and I cared more about what people thought of me rather than being authentic, and that actually bit me in the ass. Now I'm a lot more authentic. I am unapologetically me, and either you like it or you don't, and that's not on me. But that was something that I didn't even realize was in a box until my committed relationship with hubby. And I say that because a lot of my insecurities stemmed from what I had to offer. Am I good enough? Am I worth it? Of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are all worth it. We are all good enough. We make mistakes. It's normal. It's part of life. It's growing up. But I didn't notice how it was affecting me and my relationship with hubby until it kind of like, I don't even remember how it came to life. It just kind of did. Somewhere between one of the arguments that we had, and it was like, well, you just want me for my body, you don't actually want me. And I'm just like, well, wow, actually that's on me for saying that. That's my fault. That's my problem. That's not your problem. It sucked a lot to have to think about his point of view on me, and I felt like that definitely put some kind of strain on our relationship because of it. Like, do you want me, or do you just want my body? And now I am a lot better. I mean, I obviously, first and foremost, I'm authentic, and I don't need that. I don't need the approval from men or women. I am who I am, and that is me. I don't think he would marry me if it was just for my body. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a relationship and goes into marriage, your communication, how compatible you are with somebody. But that was basically like a prime example to how the long-term versus short-term of putting something in a box can happen. I mean, it will cause a lot of problems for you if you don't just automatically deal with the issue at hand. I want to stress that, and I want to make an example of myself, that it is important for you to assess your feelings, maybe not right there in the moment, but don't wait years for it to come. Now, obviously, to each rule, there is an exception. And let's talk about the individuals that I have seen that fall into the categories that I've seen most put things into a box. That was a bit of a long sentence, but it's fine. We're gonna rock with it. Most often, and this is your trigger warning, I have seen this method used for people who have been or who have sexually assaulted, people with PTSD, and people with depression. And I'm gonna dig into that. So sexual assault is rape. sexually assaulting someone is raping someone or touching them in a way that was inappropriate and one that they did not give your consent to. And okay, let me explain this. We're gonna dig into it. I fall into this category, okay, and that's about as far as I'm gonna get into it. But I fall into this category, and honestly, after everything was said and done, I put it into a box, and I think it's been 11 years, and I want to say at like my 9-year mark, it kind of all came out and just hit me in the face. Yeah. That was like 2 years ago when I was going through that depression, as I had talked about when it had come back. The thing about this is that sometimes we don't even process what really happened until years later. Do I remember the night? Yes. Do I remember the person? Yes. Do I remember what I did? Yes. Do I remember what I was feeling? No, I don't, because I put it in that box, and every single time that memory came back out to try and haunt me, I would just suppress it. I would think of something else quick, so that way I would train my mind that this is not something that I'm going to deal with. I don't want to think about it. Do not remind me of it. And there have been a lot of moments, especially with all the training that I have to do in the military, have been a lot of moments where it's like, okay, it's a constant reminder. And I think 2 years ago was when it really hit me. A lot was happening for me 2 years ago. I was still getting a lot of backlash for the case that I never meant to make a case. And I think it just kind of hit me because I felt alone. I was alone. I was doing a lot by myself, but I wasn't doing enough. I was doing a lot by myself. I was watching a bunch of Netflix shows. I was at home all the time, but I wasn't doing enough because I wasn't out with people to distract me. And I don't have a lot of distractions at home to distract me. I mean, sometimes I watch a show and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't get enough of this. And sometimes I watch a show and I'm like, okay, I'm going to play my game while I watch the show. You know what I mean? And for me, it took me 9 years for it to really be something that I assessed. I forgave the perpetrator, but that is, I think, all that I want to discuss about it, because I don't want to be judged. I don't want you to think less of me. I don't want to talk about it. I mean, it was in a box for years, okay? Almost a decade. So it's been a minute, and the most that I can say for it is that don't be like me. Do not put it in a box and deal with it 10 years later. I would say at a maximum, maybe wait like 3 years, like get back into a routine. Honestly, don't even wait that long. I would say put it in a box and deal with it when you're ready to sit down and talk to it and admit what had happened to your therapist. That's the most that I can say about it. But if you're not ready to even think about it, then don't. But what goes around comes around, and whatever you put in that box, it is going to open itself back up, especially I feel like I cannot stress this enough, but when you're in a relationship, it will come back up to haunt you. And there have been moments where I'm like, I do not want to be touched because my mind is only focusing on this one thing. But I've come to realize that if I don't deal with it head on when it first hits me, then I am already setting myself up for failure, because it's saddening and I need to deal with it. But there's nothing we can do to change it. It just kind of like, let it go. It is what it is, you know? I've also seen this method for PTSD, as I said, and let's dig into it. So PTSD is not just for war fighters, okay? It's not just for veterans. It is for everyone. It is for the public. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, okay? And do most veterans have PTSD? Yes, they do, because it was a traumatic stress that happened. And whatever the case might be, it can be triggered again. But PTSD can be for people who suffered a lot of childhood trauma. For me, a lot of my childhood trauma was my father and the amount of fights that we would get into. And I think it was when I realized that this cannot be fixed that I decided to join the military and get the F out of there, because it was just too much for me to handle. It can be that your mother abused you, or that your father abused you, or that your uncle. It can be whatever childhood trauma you want to associate with that traumatic moment. That would be PTSD. PTSD, obviously, like I said, is war, but it can also be loss. I want to thank my coworkers for sharing this with me. I am very thankful, like, knock on wood, kind of thankful that I've never gone through this, but a loss of a parent, a loss of a grandparent, that can trigger PTSD. You kind of put that loss into a box because your brain already knows that you're not going to be able to deal with it. You put it in a box and you're just not, that's it. Where did it go? I don't know. It didn't happen, and I want to act like it didn't happen and just pretend everything is normal. And that is normal. That's normal. That is how you process your feelings, your emotions, and that's how you process a significant traumatic moment in your life, is you just put it in that box and say, either I'm going to deal with it or I'm not, but I'd rather not. And then your brain will automatically decide, okay, well, we're putting this locked away somewhere, so good luck trying to retrieve this. And your mind has to go back to that same conscious state that it was once in. And that's dangerous. That's really dangerous if you have lost someone, because nope, I cannot deal with it. I talked about childhood abuse, but also just normal abuse. PTSD can stem from the abuse of your significant other. It could stem from the abuse of just a random person walking. I mean, if somebody comes up to you and punches you, that would be classified as PTSD if it continues to trigger you. And that is something most commonly that I have seen with people putting it into a box. And last but not least, obviously there's more categories. I'm just talking about the three that I've seen the most. And that last category that I know of would be depression. Depression, actually, studies show that it makes you forgetful. Not like forgetful, like, wow, I forgot that memory. Yeah, that too. But more forgetful of like, well, what did I do with my keys? I could have sworn I put them here, but guess what? I didn't. It's also the small things with depression. Depression also falls under the category of putting something in a box. Sometimes you just put that sadness into a box and it takes some digging for you to figure out what it was. I've said that before in my episodes where I said, well, sometimes I just kind of have to dig for this to figure out what's wrong with me. And depression is no new person to that. That's not the saying I want to go with, but I feel like that's all I can think of off the top of my head. As I mentioned, with events or traumatic moments, people will either put something into a box and not deal with it altogether, or they will put it in a box and deal with it later. More often, I have seen people putting it into a box and not dealing with it at all. And you know what? Like I said, kudos to you, because me and my emotional ass, guess what? I have to deal with it. I have no choice. I need to know what's going on with me at all times, otherwise I feel like I'm gonna fall apart. Putting it in a box is okay because sometimes a situation is just too much for us to handle. And I don't want you to feel like, okay, well, she's saying that I have to take this out of the box and deal with it. Not necessarily. Like I said, if you cannot deal with it, then don't deal with it. Deal with it whenever you're actually ready. But I want you to be careful, because it's going to be in that moment that you think you finally found peace and solace in your life that it's going to come back and creep on you. As somebody who's always doing something all the time, the minute I sit down and take a break, my mind is going crazy once again, trying to figure out what's in the box and what can come out next. You know, my demons are always pulling me back. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to say, well, I'm not dealing with you right now. Please get the fuck out my lane. The point is with this topic is that I just wanted to bring to life that sometimes putting something in a box can bite you in the ass, as it has with me. And I don't want you guys to fall into the same patterns. I want to provide insight in ways most other people aren't really brave enough to put themselves out there like that. And you know, it's a big deal for me too, but I think I just wanted to emphasize that a lot of these are personal experiences. But also I wanted to thank my coworkers, because they did make this episode come to life. And I did record this already once, and I was like, you know what, I hate it, I'm gonna redo it, and here we are today. I just want to say that self-love is so important, especially when it comes to putting something in a box. I mean, self-love is important no matter what, put it in a box or not. Self-love is important because a lot of negativity does go into those boxes. And I want you, if you do decide to do the method where you put something into a box, say something positive once in a while, so that way when you open up that box, it's not only bad memories and bad things in there, it's also good. And I think that kind of concludes this week's topic. Yay for doing it last minute. Go Jess. You guys like my outfit? I went to a boutique, which is very new for me. I've actually never stepped foot into a boutique, so it was nice getting out of my comfort zone and just being a little bit of a different Jazz. New and reformed. Come on now. I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the feedback. And Twitch on Wednesdays, Twitch on Saturdays at 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern Time. I can't promise you that I'm going to be on. Well, this weekend I actually am not going to be on, and I have no idea what I'm going to do about my podcast because this weekend my dress came in, guys. I am so excited. My mom is coming to see the dress finally in person, which she hasn't done yet. And that is very exciting, and there's more to come on this because there's more to come. And that's all that I can say on it. Very close to the wedding. We're nearing the wedding now. Holy crap, it's crunch time, guys. And I am nervous. I'm nervous. I'm excited and nervous, and I'm rambling. Okay, anyways. Thank you for watching. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Be safe, be happy, and be loved. XOXO, Jess.